I asked everybody to please close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. Okay, so at the end of last meeting, which was just before the new year, we read just a little section that had to do with the concept of the new year, which I believe there's only one place in the course that it does talk about that. And so I would like to review that again and then also read a little bit from what I read last week, because I think it's just a very powerful as well as very beautiful reminder to us. All right, so this would be taken from the Lighthouse magazine, but it also refers to a quote within the course. All right, to enter the stately calm within God's holy altar and remember your identity as Christ, to know the Father and the Son. And if you notice, the word know is over on this chart, on this side. When you choose for the Holy Spirit, you are choosing to know who you are. And so that knowing is not a knowing of information or knowledge. The knowing is to know who you are. So to know who you are as the one Son. We need to turn away from the temptation to see God's Son as separated and isolated, and rather see him as he really is, which is one. The ego's raucous shrieks of judgment and hate are reinterpreted for us by the Holy Spirit and become a red flag that signals the need to turn within for the problem and its solution. So let me read that again. The ego's raucous shrieks of judgment and hate, so that's what the ego is constantly up to. Jesus is going to show us how to reinterpret this through the Holy Spirit, and this will become a red flag that signals the need to turn within to address the problem rather than the reflection on the screen that appears to be the problem, because we keep talking about the idea of there's only one problem, one solution. The problem is we believe in separation, and so we would have the truth of which the story is covered over, and the covering over is the slide that is in front of the light, which we no longer can recognize the light. Then we project it out into the world, and then we see it on the screen in the world, and we believe the screen is the story. So when he talks about the idea that we are going to take all of the raucous shrieks and the judgments, they're all found on the screen. But what he's saying is you have to turn within for the problem and its solution. The problem is we put a slide or a belief system in front of what is true. It has nothing to do with the specifics of the world and what seems to be the problems in the world. So that's what we need to keep remembering to do. Come back to where the problem is. As the Course talks, there's one problem, one solution. The problem is we believe we separated. This is the result of that. And the answer is that we need to go back and remove the slide so that we can acknowledge and recognize the truth within. All right, so a guiding rule of thumb as we go through our days is this: have no thoughts about someone you would not wish to share with everyone. So how many times, you think you like this person, but you have a problem with that person, but would you see them all under the same umbrella of love or oneness? And I would guess that for the most part, most of us don't have that happening all the time, because usually there is something within us that sees differences because we're looking through the lens of differences. So a guiding rule of thumb as we go through our days is this: have no thoughts about someone you would not wish to share with everyone. And I think the beauty of this is the recognition that it doesn't mean you won't have these thoughts. You will continue to have these thoughts. But do you wish to keep these thoughts in place? Or do you see your brother as an idiot, and then you remember, oh, that's right, the Course is telling me that we're all one, but I'm not seeing that in my brother. Am I willing to bring that back to oneness and ask the Holy Spirit if you can have him help you to connect with how I could see my brother through oneness the way he sees my brother through oneness, instead of through the projection of my separated state as we normally do.
What a great rule of thumb, if you're going to sit there and talk about somebody who isn't in the room, that, all of a sudden you're like, if they come in the room, or somebody that's associated. So that's very interesting to think how every time it comes up in you to talk about, or to tell somebody about what somebody did.
Yep.
Your what's the other half of that? Would you, so the question is, would you be comfortable to share that with the person? And if not, then if you're talking behind your back.
And the worst part is, even if we're not talking about them behind their back, if we're thinking about it, it's the same thing.
Anything we're thinking about.
It's all the same, because keep remembering, all the thoughts or the beliefs that are there are coming from the separated state. So whether I'm talking about it or if I'm just, experiencing it in my head, I'm not coming from this, because this doesn't have any thoughts of judgment or attack. Only the thought of separation brings forth that concept.
And that really shuts me up.
Well, there you go.
That shuts me up all of a sudden. Like, I can't, I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about something that's distasteful, and that I don't like.
Yep.
I guess anything you think about that you don't like, and then you're thinking about it, you go, well, no sense thinking about it, because I'm not really working the Course. I'm dabbling in the ego about whatever is going on.
Correct. And if nothing else, just to keep becoming more and more aware, oh, there I go again, oh my gosh, my mind is always, as it called it, the raka shriek and what was it? The raka shrieks of judgment and, what's that?
And the wild imaginings.
And the wild imaginings, yeah. But this one says the ego's raucous shrieks of judgment and hate are reinterpreted. I mean, but don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad when you become aware of it. What we're being asked to do is become aware. If I'm having any of those reactions in my world in any way, shape, or form other than love, it's telling me, guess what? Who's in charge? Okay? And I'm not denying that that's in charge. I'm recognizing this is what's in charge. And I was thinking this week, did I bring my... I thought I brought my mirror, but it's in the bag. Anyways, we all know that I can't see my face. Okay? I can look in the screen and here, or I can put the mirror up, and now I can see my face. Okay? This is really the same thing with this process. When we project it out into the world from the ego, the two sides, one being me, the sweet little innocent victim, of course, and the other being the, the perpetrator or the problem, I forgot what my face looks like. And what my face looks like is the separated state. So the only way I can have knowledge or awareness of what's going on in my mind is to look at my world. And if my world is saying, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible, why did they say this, why did they do this? That means it's coming from this thought system. So we, as the Course even actually specifically states words, we set this up from the ego standpoint so that we never go back home. So now we take what we set up and use it for a different purpose, which is to become aware. If my peace can be disrupted, it means I'm here, period. Don't feel bad, just become aware. That's what's going on, because the only way I can ever make another choice is to realize what's going on and where it's coming from.
Isn't it also, if we go, oh my God, it's so great, it's so wonderful.
Either side,
That's also.
either side's the same. Yep, yeah. Which, I think initially we're going
So
to,
great.
right, yeah. I think we're going to start with the not so good stuff because that really irritates us. But eventually, you're right. Anything that's a high or low is going to have an opposite, for one thing. And that's something I think as we realize, oh my gosh, if I'm loving all this, that means it's going to crash and it's going to come down here. And eventually you think, maybe I don't really care if it's so high anymore because I don't want the lows.
Peace is more like just kind of grounded or
Absolutely.
relaxed,
Yes.
or not
Yep.
really ruffled in a good way or a bad way.
Correct.
just
Yes.
unruffled.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean if somebody gives you a compliment, you don't thank them or whatever, but it's not like your whole life lives on, oh, thank goodness, oh, somebody liked me, that kind of thing, where it's thank you and you move on, as opposed to making a big deal one way or the other. Or if somebody sticks their tongue out at you and calls you an idiot or whatever delightful words people love to share with us, you just know it's like it's like having a raincoat on when it's really raining hard, but you're not getting wet because you're covered over with that protection. And this literally is covering us with that protection because I am wearing the raincoat of the Holy Spirit instead of sloshing around with the ego.
I just experienced that in Hyannis. I got a parking space that was right up close. Well, I always love to get a parking space right up close, and I thought, well, is this going to make your whole day now, or what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, can you get over it?
Yeah, it's going to.
Can you get over it? It's interesting because so it isn't that you don't still have
Right.
thoughts about
right.
how it's going, but the impact and it kind of just washes over me. That's what I experienced. And not that I was always anxious to get, well, I am. I like to get I can't be, I'm not a fool. I don't want to walk 5 miles to get up there. So I just experienced that.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And once again, it's like we're a leaf, and now we're a leaf that's, no matter what's going on, we're thrown around. This is kind of like this leaf that just, or Mr. Magoo, that's another good example. Mr. Magoo just walked through life, and things were falling down all around him, but it didn't affect him at all. Or, the concept of Jesus was in the world, but not of the world, because nothing of the world had any effect on him. And that's our ultimate goal. And it's not like I'm trying to figure out how to get that. It's that I remove the blocks that are keeping me from having that, and then it will just be the end result from that. So it's pretty cool.
I started the calendar with
Right.
nothing means anything. And
Right.
so today was, I don't understand anything. I don't understand. So that was another level of, everything I see, or I guess I forget how it starts out.
Nothing I see means anything.
Right, and then the next two, the second was, everything I see, I've given all the meaning it has. And then the third one is, I don't understand anything I look at.
Yep.
And initially, that was all like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But the part about understanding now has come clear to me that understanding means how it works in the universe and how the Holy Spirit guides you. And the understanding then is what brings the peace.
Yep.
That's because we're always thinking, well, how do you get peace out of this? You squeeze the orange, you get orange juice, but where do you squeeze the peace to get the peace juice out of it?
Only when you're in peace. If this is the only place the squeezing of love comes from. And if I have this in front of that in any way, shape, or form, no matter how hard you squeeze me, this is not going to come out, because this is going to come out, because this is what's his forefront in this experience. And keep remembering, these are simply both thought systems, period. I'm either thinking with this or I'm thinking with that. Because Gloria called it thunk instead of think. Because it really was.
From one of the other, the lighthouse pamphlets they used to send out, is that that what you're reading from?
Yes, right now, but this is actually in the course too.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so this is a quote from the course. It talks about New Year. Make this year different by making it all the same, and let all your relationships be made holy for you. This is our will. Amen. So what he's saying is no matter what's going on in the world, that's an opportunity to bring it back and say, help, I don't know. Everything, nothing, nothing's too big, nothing's too small. It's all the same. Only we keep thinking, oh, this one, 9/11, ooh. Not that that wasn't perceived in our world as a very challenging time. But if it takes my peace away, it really doesn't matter if it's because I broke my nail or I dropped a blueberry on the floor and I can't find it. Doesn't matter. I'm either at peace, which comes from this, or I'm not, which comes from this. And I know initially I would say most people, when they come to the course, when Jesus constantly says they're all the same, in our world of hierarchies of this is bad, this is really bad, this is really, really bad, it makes no sense. But if you start to understand, I'm either aligned with where peace is, or I'm not aligned with where peace is. An illusion is an illusion is an illusion, absolutely.
So there's really only one perpetrator.
Yes, it's your mind.
Okay, I mean, that's.
Or the choice in your mind, maybe that's a better word.
The perpetrator is an individual kind of thing, like, so what is even that? I read a lot of mystery novels and they talked about the perpetrator, but in this class I was kind of interested in how that really worked out, but it's really is only one, as there's only, okay, so thank you.
Yeah, and think about this. When this has been placed in front of oneness or love, okay? This is going to be projected out into the world. Then we're going to see a body or a situation, and we're going to take that, and this is the thought of separation, and we'll put a face on it. And we'll say, it's so-and-so, or it's this situation, or whatever it may be that we are reacting to in the world, but it's never about that. That may be true in the world, but that's not what's causing the pain. Because as we know from the story of Jesus in the Course, he was being crucified. None of this affected him because his mind was totally settled in here. Yet all the same things that were going on, but it did not affect him because his mind was steadied here.
So we think the perpetrator are all the little things that come up.
Correct.
And that's the thought, whereas the perpetrator is our mind not going with the Holy Spirit.
That is
That's
correct.
just
Yeah, and that's
forgetting that part.
right.
Forgetting to go with, ask the Holy Spirit for help, and then that invites and keeps the perpetrator.
Correct. And that's why that workbook number 5 says, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And I'm sure everybody in this room has somewhat struggled with that one a few times throughout the years, because dang it, and I was.
The whole course in a nutshell.
Right, well, it definitely, no question about it, yes. And just as a reminder, this particular, and I don't know if you've been here since we've been working on this, Lisa, but they used to send out the Lighthouse, which was a newsletter, yeah, right. And I was inspired to look up a Christmas one, and so I've been talking a little bit about that. But this one is called The Stately Calm Within, the True Manger of Christ. And at the very end of the article, this is what Ken writes, which I'm just very touched by this, but this is the manger we must first recognize as our chosen home before we can turn to the truly calm, there to truly reborn as Christ. Therefore, whenever you are tempted to hold an unkind thought of anyone, turn to the stately calm within. Whenever you are tempted to make another person the object of your need, turn to the stately calm within. Because, how often do we set up a perimeter with a quote-unquote loved one that they're supposed to bring me flowers or call me at 3 o'clock or do whatever it is that I think they should do. He's asking us to turn to the stately calm, because we've set up a storyline for that individual that says, because they didn't do what they're supposed to do, I'm justified to judge and attack them. Whenever you are tempted to feel justified in your judgments of others, good or evil, anyone ever do that? Turn to the stately calm within. And I mentioned last week that during the week I had thought of how often do I really walk into any room, any situation with a totally blank screen. You know, we have such preconceived ideas of literally everything. And to be able to just accept what is and turn to the stately calm within, that will be what will take us to the healing. Whenever you are tempted to hold a thought about someone you would not also see in everyone, turn to the stately calm within. Within that place of holy stillness dwells the living God you never left and who never left you. And you know, so often I will talk about any scenario that we encounter in our lives and to let that go, empty your hands, and ask to see His way. It's literally the same as coming to that stately calm within. I don't know. Fill this up. Yeah, did you have something?
Well, yesterday I had a part of where I work had a little luncheon to get together before we start working again. And I didn't even go last year because I didn't want to or couldn't, had an excuse or something. But I was walking in and I had to walk a couple blocks to get there. And I was just really letting Jesus, I really kind of felt almost empty and letting Jesus, because it was like a situation I really have in the past kind of had a problem with. But,
Right.
And then I got in and it was like no big deal. A couple people were there and hello, and then I just got my food and sat down at the table and I had a really good time. And time went like that.
Wow.
And anyway, but I just remember going in, I was really like,
Oh, right, right.
I have nothing. I had a couple blocks to
Jesus,
just
take the wheel.
direct me, tell me what to say and do.
Right, because I don't know. And the beauty of this, we really don't know ever what to say or do. We just come along thinking we know that there's something I need to do. And I like to think of it as a Jell-O mold. If I walk into a scenario with a Jell-O mold of what I think it's supposed to be or shouldn't be, I'm going to get what I asked for. I've got the Jell-O. It's firm. When I walk in with empty hands, it's like, I don't know. Here we go. What do you got?
Empty, like
I know. That's beautiful.
To try to empty yourself out is so, it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But I really felt that
Nice.
kind of an instant of like, I'm at mercy here. Just guide me in.
Right. That's beautiful.
Asking enough
Tell me
questions.
where to sit.
How do I do this? You know,
Right,
You
right.
want to go somewhere and have a good time. I mean, I think like a party, you think a party, have a good time.
Right,
You know,
right,
now you
right.
got to be somebody you never were before. You have to be hot stuff so you can have a good time. And you just don't understand. I mean, it's because you think that's the way to do it. That's how you don't have the understanding that's important for this,
Right.
for how what you're going to get that's going to give you the peace, the understanding that nobody gives a rat's ass if you have a good time or not. You know, they don't care
It's
about it.
all inside your own mind.
It is.
I know.
Of course.
But you know how you are so caught up in how it's supposed to be, or how you're supposed to be so jolly over the holidays. You know, that's
Right.
probably a great big one in our culture. How
Sure.
people get so depressed during that time.
Yep.
Interesting.
Exactly. All right, so when within the place of holy stillness dwells the living God you never left and who never left you. But I have to be willing to enter that stillness in order to reap the effects of that. Again, if I'm carrying this, and again, we'll take your example. If I'm walking into that party, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. I won't know what to say, blah, 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 versus, I don't know, show me. Totally
And I was so
different.
calm.
Nice,
I was
nice.
much more calm than normal, and I just
Right.
listened to other
Yeah.
people instead of trying to fill
Fill it up.
I mean,
Yeah.
so I really felt like I was just
Yeah, that's
sitting back
beautiful.
and just kind of watching and listening more than trying to react.
Nice.
When you weigh in, holy instant, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Course also describes it as the holy place, like you're sinking into a holy place where thoughts can enter not. So you're not thinking anymore.
No,
about-
no, no, no.
You're not
And, right.
interpreting, you're not thinking,
Yeah.
you're just sitting in that silence.
And then you
and-
see other people too, it's just, I mean. it's
Right,
just a-
because you're coming from here, so you're going to see people differently than if you're coming from here, which is always going to be a competition, or I've got to impress somebody, or, you know, all the bazillions of wonderful ways that the ego plays its game. It's that, then I can literally see my brother as he really is. Yeah, it's quite cool. All right, and within that holy stillness dwells also his beloved Son. Ta-da!
That's not the separated one.
No, that's not the
Yeah,
separated. That's the one you'll see
Right.
when you're coming
Yeah,
from
him,
here.
That's holy, yeah.
This
It's
is,
me.
you'll find him when you choose for this.
That's the me when I'm looking for the Holy Spirit,
Mhm.
not the separated
Right.
person,
Yep.
separated Son of God.
The innocent child of God's stately calm, in whom the Holy Christ is born today. And you know, I think the once again, the beauty of this is when we chose to separate, we lost our connection with God. We literally lost our connection with our true self, and we lost our connection with our brother. And we took the total opposite and have lived here ever since, wondering why I'm not at peace, because peace doesn't live here. This is another quote from the Course. Watch with me, angels, watch with me today. Let all God's holy thoughts surround me, and be still with me while heaven's Son is born. Let earthly sounds be quiet, and the sights to which I am accustomed disappear. Let Christ be welcome where he is at home, and let him hear the sounds he stands and see but sights that show his Father's love. Let him no longer be a stranger here, for he is born again in me today. I just thought that was so pretty. And when it says, watch with me, angels, watch with me today, let all God's holy thoughts, capital T, surround me. And understand, as Lisa mentioned something about, let my thoughts calm down. Well, my thoughts, as the Course explains in a number of places, are nothing. We don't really see, we don't really hear, we don't really think, we don't really feel. But this whole body was programmed like a computer to respond out of that. But that's not who we are. And so when you're coming to inviting his thought, you're literally inviting the opposite of what the ego is all about.
And how that's a thing, I mean, an illusion, but it's still, it's a thing. I have an experience with my son that was, you know, miracle, I guess, absolutely. Because there's nothing I can give him. Like, he has all the money, he has all the ideas, he's got all his things going on. You know, there's not, and I think in the past, that's the thing, like when you care about somebody, you think, what can I give him? You know, especially like for the holiday, you know, what can I give him? And I actually experienced like what you were talking about when you were taking, you know, feeling the presence with you and going. And so I would say for the first time I experienced the actual thought of how the gift was my quiet mind, and how I felt the power of that sense of the gift, and I didn't have to ask him any questions, or I didn't have to badger him, I didn't have any agenda, and how I could feel it like it was more solid than all the other thoughts I had, because I couldn't really work with the other thoughts. And I just had this enormous sense of, I was successful, you know, I did it, you know, here we are, we're just having peace, and, you know, it was lovely. I guess that was the first time I could say that I could name that time as a time when even though I felt peaceful before,
Right.
as a time when I actually had given him something that no one else could give him.
Sweet. Yeah.
I mean, it just,
Right.
that's how it's a thing, because it sounds like, hunky-dory, everybody's gonna be peaceful and quiet and just sit there, and that's what they do in church, you sit with your hands folded until you just about
Right.
squeak, and you don't have anything to say or do, and you're bored out of your mind, and, so there you are, but this was a tangible, because I think that's really what people wonder, like, what am I gonna get out of this?
Right,
What is it, what's in it
Right.
for me?
right.
And how it was my piece that was in it, and he didn't have to explain, he didn't have to say anything, which again is a really an interesting place to be. You're not anywhere. You're
Yep.
like you're just not anywhere, but somehow you feel certain that you've got something.
Yeah, that's nice.
And when you're in that quiet place in you, you're drawing that out in him also. I
Correct.
feel.
Yes, that,
You're connecting with that on a level that you don't even realize, nor does he.
right.
Right.
But it's-
You don't realize it until I guess, and I had asked just, just to be, I don't know, to be peaceful or not understand or not,
Right.
or just to let go of those empty thoughts about what could I get him, does he need a special basket, or does he need a new television, or, because that's what people do.
Sure.
They go down the list and they make lists, and then, whatever came to me was okay, but it didn't, I guess it was, the gift was really my gift to myself, because
Correct.
I just understood that, which, isn't that the gift, is understanding. And so that's how I felt, particularly blessed this year, I think.
Nice.
That particular
Right.
thing.
And keep remembering, when you're asking for the holy instant, which is that moment where you get out of the way, the Course describes this place as a moment out of time and space where you don't exist. It's you're meshing into the everything. And as Lisa also mentioned, when you do that, you're offering whoever you're in contact with the reflection of that connection and that love, and you're showing them there's another possibility. Not because of you doing it, or you figuring it out, or you saying the right words, or buying the right present, or whatever it may be, because your mind is in that holy place. Just like, wow, that's pretty cool. And this amount of time collapses while you're gone.
And you don't have to do anything. I think, to me, that's a tremendous relief, because I felt like I spent my whole life trying to figure out what other people expected me to do.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Filling their expectations. But this is the time when there's nothing to do, so you could be bored out of your mind, right? You don't know. Nothing to do, nothing to say, and you're sure. You have a certainty about you that you're enough in that moment. It's just,
Nice, yep.
it's, to me, that's the proof, is that it came to me, and how there's nothing to do, nothing to say,
Yep.
and it's perfectly wonderful. It's not boring, it's not,
Right,
That's one of the lessons. I need do nothing.
right, yep. And I think your comment, Andrea, in the traditional way that most of us were brought up spiritually, you would sit in church with your hands crossed and be peaceful, but you really weren't peaceful inside. You were trying to get something. You were trying to accomplish something. You were waiting for that, the angel to come down and get you, or whatever it may be.
Well, that was
You
your
really weren't coming.
expectation,
Well, we were sort of taught that too.
like
So,
how you're supposed to sit there and be quiet, and
Right.
I was just so dutiful.
well, yeah.
And so, I would kind of cram it down my cousin's throats too.
Sure.
You have to be quiet in church. I'm like, well, who cares, It was just interesting. I guess
Yeah.
my son probably led me to beyond that somewhat, because he wasn't buying any of it.
Well, and I think the funny thing is, as you said, you were dutiful. So you did all the things you were supposed to do according to the rules. Now, there were many people that rebelled against that and did other rules. But the point being is, either side, that wasn't the answer.
Right, and those were the people who were disgusting to me, some of the things.
Yeah, of course they were, because you were on the wrong team, or you were on the other team, I should
I
say.
mean, the boys.
They probably thought, oh, look at that goody two-shoes over there.
The boy in my class who took, I don't know who did it, two boys, we had a statue of the Blessed Mother in the hallway in the Catholic school, right? They put a cigarette in.
Oh, yeah.
I thought,
I think
that
that's
was
common.
despicable. I said, that is just terrible that they would do that.
How
terrible.
disrespectful.
Very yeah, and I didn't even know that word despicable, that was probably disrespectful, yeah, so it just, how they did things was just like so bad, so terrible.
Yeah.
And so that made me so good, but it
Absolutely.
didn't work out that way. I don't know
Yeah.
when I woke up
It
to
never
it.
does.
I mean, it didn't matter what they did.
Well, and
It didn't matter.
there's the perfect experience of this. Look at how much better I am than they are. God, let me just show you how wonderful I am and what a jerk they are. But
Yeah.
until you get over here and you see your brother is the same, that's still going to keep you stuck in the bubble of separation.
And you feel pious for about
Oh,
a
yeah.
minute, and then
Then you feel
that's
guilty.
because nobody's acting as pious as you are, so like, come on, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And my cousins would just laugh
Right.
at whatever my grandmother said, and I was just, that's an abomination, you're not supposed to talk to grandma like that. You know, but what was so funny, they were always laughing about something, and I said, what in the heck is so funny? And now I finally figured it out after all this time. Half my cousins are dead, now I know.
All right, we are going to turn to workbook lesson 44 and read part of this, and we'll see how far we go. And while you're looking up, I just want to make a comment. If for some reason any of you are gone from the course for a while and then you want to check with Unity's bulletin to see if we are still here, don't do that anymore because we're no longer in the calendar at Unity because we're not a Unity sanctioned activity. We just rent space here. So don't trust that, call me or find out, call the church because I think they'll give you the information. Who knows?
So if you look at the website,
You're not me anymore.
When,
Yep,
when
correct.
did that change?
The beginning of this year, but the new minister has a lot of stringent rules and regulations of which he's abiding by and whatever. So, yeah.
Have you met the new minister?
I have.
I did see him, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to church here one Sunday.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Him and, the musical
Yeah,
director.
yeah. So I'm just letting you know so that I'm not, I'm not happy about it, of course, but I'm not ragging on the rules. The rules are the rules, but I just want you to be aware of that.
It makes no sense to me, but, I mean, nobody asks me, so I guess I should say.
I so agree with you.
I don't think ask us.
We could set them straight all the time.
Well, there's just so many things that go on in the world that make no sense anymore, and I'm like, really, what's the big deal?
Yeah. So
It's just
anyway,
somebody else's thought.
somebody else's plan,
Somebody
yeah.
else's thought, and they take dominion over their thoughts and who they are and the way they want things to
Yep.
be, which I guess is the way you organize.
Just another lesson for our forgiveness.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, okay, so there you go, it's coming from here, so I gotta look at the reflection or projection on my screen and bring it back to this, it's the answer, and it doesn't matter how absolutely within the illusion unfair it appears to be, and dang, there's a whole lot of them out there that seem really, really unfair.
My neighbor in my new neighborhood is pretty active with this church, and she was on the board to pick him.
Oh,
Yeah, so and she comes here a lot, so I came to church with her one Sunday.
okay. All right, so workbook lesson 44, God is the light in which I see. Today we are continuing the idea for yesterday, adding another dimension to it. You cannot see in darkness and you cannot make light. You can make darkness and then think you see in it, but light reflects life and is therefore an aspect of creation. Creation and darkness cannot coexist, but light and life must go together, being but different aspects of creation. And the reason I decided to work on this today was because I thought this not that many other sections in the course don't focus in on this, but this really focuses in on the either or, either darkness or light, period. And because we really have to embrace the concept from the course that I'm either in that darkness, which means I've got that thought in front of God, or I'm aligned with God, and there's no in-betweens, and it's one or the other. All right, so today we continue, and I'm going to read through it again and talk a little bit about it. Today we are continuing the idea for yesterday, adding another dimension. You cannot see in darkness and you cannot make light. What that means is if you've chosen to look through darkness, you're going to see darkness because that's an effect of the cause of choosing for darkness. And darkness could be parallel to separation, the acceptance of something other than what you are. And you cannot make light. Now, we will continue to try to represent light. I mean, we've got lights in the room because it's dark outside and we're trying to light up the room. But we can never replace the true light by the artificial lights that we make in the world. But you got to give us credit for trying so hard, right?
Yeah, come on.
Yep. You can make darkness, and notice the word make, it does not say create, because anything that God does creates, anything that the ego did after the separation or the belief in the separation, the ego made. So he says you can make darkness and think you see in it, but light reflects life and therefore an aspect of creation. So we will look on the darkness and believe we made this on a subconscious level, because I didn't remember choosing this or choosing the effects of this, but I will see the effects of choosing for darkness everywhere I look. But I will never harm or affect light. And that's so, I mean, thank goodness for that, because if we could have messed that up, we would have done that too, I'm sure. All right. Creation and darkness cannot coexist. Again, one or the other. But light and life must go together. But in order to understand that, you have to understand that there's a place in the Course where it specifically states the only real place life exists is in oneness. This thing we call birth, life, death is part of the illusion that was made up. All right, so creation and darkness cannot coexist, but light and life must go together, being but different aspects of creation. And once again, creation, making, mutually exclusive. In paragraph 2, in order to see, you must recognize that light is within, not without. You do not see outside yourself, nor is the equipment for seeing outside you. An essential part of this equipment is the light that makes seeing possible. It is with you always, making vision possible in every circumstance. Okay, so in order to see, you must recognize that light is within, not without. So when we're looking out there for anything, what do we normally do? We're always looking at the world. We're trying to figure out what's wrong with the world or how to fix the world. Well, I'm never going to find the light when I'm doing any of those. I have to come within, and is that beautiful section that we read just before we started this, to go with that stately calm within, in the midst of whatever craziness is going on outside. You do not see outside yourself, and we could apply that concept that I just mentioned about we don't see, we don't hear, we don't feel, we don't think, none of that. So we don't really see outside yourself. We are just simply seeing what the robot was programmed to see, so it would perpetuate the belief in separation. Nor is the equipment for seeing outside you. So as long as I'm outside, or when I'm looking outside, I don't have the equipment to see inside. It's not available there. An essential part of this equipment is the light that makes seeing possible. It is always with you, making vision possible in every circumstance. But again, in order to see or experience this, I have to remove this. As long as I'm here, I have no access to this, despite the fact that this is here all the time, waiting for you to show up and ask for it. Paragraph 3. Today we are going to attempt to reach that light. For this purpose, we will use a form of exercise which has been suggested before and which we will utilize increasingly. It is a particularly difficult form for the undisciplined mind and represents a major goal of mind training. It requires precisely what the untrained mind lacks. Yet this training must be accomplished if you are to see. All right, I'm not going to read. All right, today we're going to attempt to reach that light. So you might want to think of it as the recognition that I've been doing this kind of like all wrong for all practical purposes, and he's going to teach us how to do it in a place that was going to give us different effects. And I'm not going to read every single line. Okay, it is, and he's reminding us that it's particularly difficult for the undisciplined mind, of which he's telling us we're undisciplined. And that's important for us to realize. My mind is very undisciplined for looking for the light. It's very disciplined in finding problems in the world that I need to fix and change, and represents a major goal of mind training. And as most of you are probably familiar, throughout the workbook lesson, Jesus does state this concept of mind training. And basically, it's a reminding your mind of what is true instead of what we've been honing in on. It requires precisely what the untrained mind lacks. So he's going to share with us, what does the untrained mind lack? Yet this training must be accomplished if you are to see. So if I want to see, he's saying, this is the way home, kids. All right, so paragraph 5, I'm just going to read the first line and then we'll go to the fourth line. Your mind is no longer wholly untrained. And, you know, when Shelley mentioned her experience with going into that party, the thought that popped in my mind is, as my mind becomes more and more trained in looking from within, because you chose that stillness within, and then when you walk into a place, you're taking that stillness with you. And that is accomplished by our continued choice to connect with that empty space. And a lot of times we can ask and ask and ask and ask, and not a whole lot seems to shift or change. But eventually, when we ask, or maybe not even ask in that particular situation, all of a sudden the reflection of the asking choice will present itself into the world, and we'll go, man, I didn't even ask. And I think to myself, oh yes, you've been asking constantly for years now, and now you're seeing a reflection of that. So unfortunately, unlike the remote on your TV, when you ask, it doesn't necessarily push the button and poof, there we go. The asking is kind of working into who you are, and then one day you'll just go, oh wow, that's what this is talking about. All right.
Like pulling taffy.
Right. Okay, so line 4, paragraph 5. While you practice in this way, you leave behind everything that you now believe and all the thoughts that you have made up. I like that line. All right, I'll read it again. While you practice in this way, you leave behind everything that you now believe. And, you know, how often have I been sharing in the last 6 months or year? We have to be willing to recognize whatever story I am diligently grasping to, I have to be willing to let that down and say, I don't know. And that doesn't mean you can't go through a process of kicking and screaming and yelling and whatever for a while until you can come to that point. And I would highly recommend that. This isn't okay, that's right, I'm just letting that go. It has to really come from that earnest place inside where, okay, I've exhausted my anger and upset, and I really want to know what peace is now. All right. And again, you leave behind everything that you now believe. Well, gosh, is that all? Because, how do I, rip the carpet under my entire belief system since the moment I was born in this lifetime and empty to emptiness? That's going to take some practice, guys. Even though it's right here all the time, for us it may appear to be a bit of a struggle at times.
But isn't it also just one thought at a time?
One thought at a time, one willingness at a time,
You
yeah.
can't push 5 thoughts where one won't go.
Right, yeah, yeah. I just had the image of one of those Tupperware little games for kids where you have to put the square in the square if it doesn't
Oh.
fit.
The shapes.
That's right, the shape ball, is that what it's called?
Very well.
All right, and then all the thoughts that you have made up, and be very aware of the word usage, the thoughts that you have made up. And again, the thoughts of the ego, the words, the stories of the ego are what we made up to replace God.
And that's only your misunderstanding.
And that's your
It's
misunderstanding.
not a sin, it's your misunderstanding of the way it works.
Correct. Not only that, but it's not Mary Ann that put this slide in front of the light. It's the Son of God who chose for separation, which this now gets projected onto the screen of my life, of which I think I'm a character in the dream, and I think I'm doing something, and you're not. It's just the effect of this choice. So when you remove that choice, the answer automatically rises to the surface. And Mary Ann doesn't have to figure out what that looks like, because Mary Ann doesn't know anything. And of course that means,
Basically exist.
well, and I don't exist on top of that. Yes, there we go.
You weren't existing that whole time either, but you didn't know that.
No, we really thought, well, and keep remembering, I'm either identified to this character called me, or I'm up here as the observer observing the character called me. And when I'm up here observing the character called me, I'm not identifying with the character any longer. And that's a good place to spend as much time as possible. And when you're here, this is where pain and suffering and you name it occurs. Up here, you're just watching the idiot run around called Mary Ann and say, oh my gosh, what's up to now? Yep.
Yeah.
All right, now I love this line. Properly speaking, this is the release from hell. Oh, did you have something? Dark?
It's just the opposite of what we having a self and our self individualism.
Yes,
and,
yes.
And the oneness when we're, I mean, it's just colliding like opposite.
Yep. Yeah, well, and if you look at, this, the hero of the dream is the me who thinks she's different from everybody else. But if you realize all of these characters are part of the slide that's covering over oneness. They're all one slide.
That's just like so
I know.
just mind blowing.
Beyond mind-blowing.
I can't even.
I know.
Can't even.
Well, and be very aware that when we chose for separation and then we were afraid to go back to God, we were kind of stuck. We were afraid to go back. We wanted to remain special, different, and an individual, but we, had all this guilt, sin, and fear. So the way we solved that was to dump it on somebody else. Then I could play the part of an innocent victim, and I'm off scot-free.
Different from the other.
And I'm different from the other guy.
Your body and
I
our
didn't know
body.
that you did.
Yes, and which is fine, except for I'm never going to have peace in that storyline. Never, ever, ever. Yeah. And again, like when I mentioned earlier, if I'm looking in the mirror, I'm only going to see what's in my mind because that's what's in my mind. When I take this slide out of the way, what's in my mind is this. Totally different experience.
The slide out of the way is-
Yeah. And the ironic thing is the slide was never real anyway, so it's not like you're giving anything up. You just thought we were giving something up. And I'm so addicted to this wonderful, delightful character that I don't even like. On top of that, talk about a sick program. But
Well, they used to, I think the fear that my family had when I did meditation was that I was skipping off scot-free somewhere, which I was, but they thought it had to do with that my body should have been doing this and this and this, and I should not have been going so far within of my belly button or wherever. They had all those misconceptions about what I was doing. I didn't even know what I was doing.
right.
I was just getting calm.
Yeah.
And I felt when I was calm, I knew things that I didn't know when I wasn't calm. And it just was like that. But like now, the idea of you're able to skip away from the heaviness of the ego, that's really what it, I think that's what
correct.
I experienced with my son. I skipped away. I said, well, I can't give him anything. God, what are we going to do? And God said, you you gave him peace, you gave him quiet, you gave him acceptance, you gave him non-judgment,
Right.
as a thing in itself. But, the skipping away is very scary for people. How
big
you're
time.
not involved.
Oh, yeah.
If you're off having your meditation, you're not involved with them. You're not going to do anything or help them in any way.
Right.
And how that, actually, I can't say backfired on him. I think it fired forward. Like, I was able to control things in my mind, allow God to help me, and then that was how I could leak that out into everywhere else that I was at. But, the idea of it was very scary.
Sure.
And very much opposite to how anybody should ever act.
Well, and keep remembering, the initial choice to separate was I did something. The Son of God collectively at that point did something. And anything that we choose is going to beget babies of what was chosen. So when we chose for the separated state, which is what we did, the babies of that were, we have to be doing something. You don't go sit and be quiet. You do something, accomplish something, figure something out, find the answer to the calculation, whatever it may be. And the answer is to go back to, I don't know, show me. Totally different. And we're very addicted to living from this experience because it's basically all we've known.
And how could it be anything that's within yourself when everybody else is so much smarter than you?
Absolutely.
And they have all these enormous religions where the priest has studied and he knows all these things. So you can't,
Absolutely.
You can't justify to anybody what it is you're doing.
Yep.
Except like you're feeling a lot better. And so even when they would be angry, I didn't care because I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yep. But at the same time, if they're judging you for that, it's because they're in their separated mind and they can't help but see you from that place as well.
Right, and then you just have to hang with yourself. I mean, I think maybe that's one of the biggest challenges is that nobody else wants to do, or they're not interested in how you're getting about. They know, from experience now, I guess these last few years, they know somehow you've got something going on that they can't touch. And that's all you get.
Yep.
You don't get anything. You don't get any,
Right.
what, you're wonderful. Let's give you a star. You just know what you know, and it has to be enough for you.
Yep.
And that's the hard part.
And if we have any thoughts of they should approve of me, you're right back there again as well.
Anything where they have to react and do something for you.
Right.
That's the other part of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, I find from being around a lot of people who have meditated a long time, they're just different.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you can feel it, and even people who are not in it can sometimes feel they don't know what it is, but they like to
Exactly.
hang out with so-and-so
Right.
at work. Or,
Sure.
and if you talk to so-and-so at work, turns out that they did yoga,
Sure.
or they went to India, or Japan. I mean, they had some other experiences that experiences in their energy. And people
Absolutely, yes.
can
Yep.
feel it. Or if you're in a 12-step program, and they're at the moment where they are deciding what to do about their addiction, it's like you come together.
Sure.
Right, so it's not all, I'm out there by myself and I'm the only one who can see
Right,
the
but-
Course in Miracles.
Right, but I think Andrea is speaking from when she was very young
yes.
compared to now, where it's much more acceptable to do yoga and meditate than it was back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
For somebody to told me the first time I was doing meditation that I would meet like-minded people, that kind of implied that my family were not like-minded people, meaning they weren't really with it, but I didn't interpret it that way. I just didn't. And then I think that the experience of the meditation is what guided the rest of me into the other areas of spirituality I was interested in. And then the like-minded people, that was like a bonus to it. And of course, my son isn't the like-minded people. He's just my son. So, I mean, in terms of how I think all the time, he's not a like-minded people. I mean, he doesn't hate me or anything, but he's not, he doesn't say, Mom, what are you up to? He kind of, well, I guess he lets me alone now too.
And on a whole different level, when you connect with that,
You're connecting with that.
you're connecting with that.
Yeah, you're going his way.
And on that level where we're all one,
Right.
where where the forms, the broken pieces seem to take mean nothing. We're
Right.
all one.
Anyway,
So,
I think that's just been a really interesting experience for me to see
Yeah.
that this, it doesn't matter, like you're always wondering, well, what if I do this, what somebody else is gonna think, or how I'm supposed to do things the way they want to, in order to be okay. And maybe it's just my time to take that out just for a minute now.
Yeah. And there's many people, I'm sure some of you have heard of them, that think, oh, if I'm a Course in Miracles student, I need the perfect relationship where that other individual is studying the Course as well, and then everything will be wonderful in my life, which is not correct, because you're going to see the projection from your mind that needs to be healed, and you'll superimpose that on whoever you play with. And that is not a requirement. The requirement is to accept the atonement for myself, which is to keep going to that stately calm within, whether it's done through meditation or if it's done through every time you realize you're judging and attacking and you bring yourself back there. Doesn't matter, whichever, whatever way that works for you. You're saying, I'm not going to play in the arena of the insanity of judgment and attack. I want to know something different here, and that will take you to.
Alan Watts has this, I mentioned it a few weeks ago, this little video, and he's speaking, and he said, well, yeah, I'm gonna be holy, I'm holy, I know all this stuff. Where's my soulmate? I want my soulmate.
Right.
Because we want the things in this world that are the reward.
Absolutely,
as well as these
sure,
things over here.
right. Which in
I understand it.
right, of course, right, because
Who wouldn't want it all?
right, because within our world, everything is about what can I get in the world that's going to fill me up and make me better. And the Course is trying to tell us nothing is going to fill you up and make you better, because if you're doing this, you're not going to be full or made better. It doesn't live there.
there is no world.
Right.
It's all illusion.
Correct. And that doesn't mean that everyone shouldn't, go through their process of attempting to have it be filled that way. Because eventually you'll go, you know what, that was a nice ride, but I don't think it's working.
Or even if you do think this world is real, you can just observe how it's not, no matter how rich they are, they could be terrible.
Absolutely.
Crazy stuff in the world that's going on anymore, it's a lot easier to see that it's just not real, you know what I mean? And
Thank
I remember
goodness,
when we
right.
first started the Course,
Oh, of course.
and I read that Jesus said that we're insane, and that the word, and that we see things upside down, and I was like, what? But it's like, it's just like, so obvious, and I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that there's something wrong.
Yes, and it's that moment of waking up to something's wrong that takes us for, in a different direction, which is, the answer of the Course.
Well, then if it's wrong, it's not gonna bother us a whole lot anyway, because it's not working for them in that situation, and I'm not going toward that because I have my own spot to be. So it doesn't matter even if it's not working or it's wrong. Personally, it has nothing to do with my
Right.
atonement, right? Yeah, so just to let that be what it is and I move from there. And it's, particularly difficult with family members who you
Sure,
have
of course.
seen going through their cases thinking, well, they're just normal and you're the one that's off the wall. And then to come to that situation where, I guess I feel very fortunate that I could understand the things from this Course rather than look at everything else going on and start being on the judgments on myself, what next I'm supposed to do. So that's, I guess I was able to, I feel like the Holy Spirit pulled me out of all that stuff. Come on, no, we're going this way, forget it, Don't let it go, it'll be all right.
Well, they used to say that once you have the information, you really can't go back.
No, you'll try, but it won't work. Yeah.
That's a great understanding, I guess, that then you're not, and then you know how hard it was, and you know how hard it is for other people, and you just don't have any opinion because you don't have to be involved in that. You're not going to be involved because you're not going to be helpful to anybody.
Well, there's no hierarchy either.
Right.
Just because I went to Unity for years, doesn't mean
Right.
I'm better than anybody else.
Right, exactly.
Right,
The universe has its path for each person. Because I remember your son, who used to be doing the sound at Unity. So he's been exposed.
Sure, but that doesn't
that's
mean
not
he
his
took it
thing.
in.
And I
And
guess
it's none
that's
of our
been
business.
my learning curve in this, is to let be how it is, because it's all the same, really. And then to let that be, just be how it is.
Yep,
Because, well, I guess mostly because I knew I couldn't do anything about it.
No, he has his own mind.
absolutely, right, yep.
Is it the same as prayer
Pardon me?
with this exercise? Is it
I mean,
we're
I
describing
would
it as
s-
meditation, but I'm just curious, what's the
I would
difference
say, in a
between
way, it's
prayer?
the absence of prayer, because so often with prayer, people want to get something. They want to get a result. They want to fix it. They want to change it. This
It's
is,
a petition.
it's a petition, yeah. This is really emptying the mind of, as the Course says, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the solution is. So I really don't know anything. I want to know who I am in the knowing of who I really am, instead of anything that has anything to do with all this stuff. So
And people talk about balance all the time. Balancing what? What's it about?
yeah, there's a lot of nice words that make sense, and they sound like they will take you where you're going to go, but that's very different than this. And some people need to experience that, and that's perfectly fine.
So, like, what did they say, the only prayer really, the only prayer
The only real prayer,
is what? Is the only prayer
show
is,
me who I
show me
am.
who I am.
Yeah.
And then
So
how,
that's, would that be like a meditative, like a contemplation?
I think
Prayer.
it could be, but I mean, in any given moment, when you start, the Rakesh, the judgment and attack that we read before, and you just stop and go, wait, hold it, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be where I sit down and spend 15 or 20 minutes. It can simply be a shift of your mind, just like poof.
Because people can sit and meditate and like you were saying,
Right.
then you go, oh, look at me,
Well,
So
be very,
concentrated,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
like
yes,
in
yes.
meditation.
Gotta be,
But that's not, you're really trying to get freedom.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
monkeys used to get mad at me because I would forget which wall to face.
oh yeah, or what clothes to wear, or what, did you wash your hands the right way? Yeah, and yet, all those things can be helpful to get somebody into the mood of doing that, but that's not what it's about, right? Yeah.
For me, like, I've noticed that I've started doing this morning meditation, and it's a real long one, it's only like 13 minutes, but I just feel so much more centered for the whole day. I mean, it just lasts like the whole day, and that just is such a nice feeling. I really like it.
But when you say center, does that mean you're seeing through God's eyes? Like you're,
I feel calmer. When I say centered, I mean, I feel calmer, and I feel like that, like that little empty space inside of you that sometimes you just can't get filled, like right here. It feels full. It feels full, yeah.
so this, I'm just thinking of this, the Song of Prayer.
Right,
is
right.
about how,
The steps up the ladder of prayer, yeah. Yeah.
how it goes.
But there's another whole level of things. We were just talking about this at our Christian contemplation group, Centering Prayer, on Tuesday. And the whole thing was, we're talking about prayer was meditation. But there's another level. According to this, God is the light in which I see. We are the prayer.
that's right.
Right,
So it's
and
a question of what am I letting come through? Like you said.
exactly. This is my prayer too,
Yeah.
if this is what I'm choosing. And so when I'm saying, show me who I really am, you're saying, I'm going to set this aside and you show me, which doesn't have anything to do with Mary Ann. It has to do with Mary Ann making that choice to step aside. But coming forth of what this is automatic. It just comes, it's like you've removed the block, and what's truth is right there.
We have to see the block, like we have to.
Well,
see
yes,
the block.
observing the
Look at
block
that
is
slide.
important, yes.
What is throwing me off?
Correct.
That slide
Yes.
is the thing that's gonna take
Yes.
us
Yeah.
closer to.
And that's why the Course is very specific with the idea. This is a Course in removing the blocks to the awareness of love. And lots of people, when they come to the Course, go, well, you don't ever talk about nice stuff. You're always talking about this stuff that, I don't want to look at that. Well, because we need to look at that, because that's what's keeping us from knowing what that light is. Yeah.
Well, some people say also that what I think is wrong with me is also something right with me. If only
You use it that way, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we say right and wrong.
Yeah, and words are so, yeah.
It's
Yep.
just
Reflection.
So projection. But doesn't it, like, the book is full of prayers?
Oh, big time.
And just when you say God is the light in which I see, you're affirming something you don't know. First of all, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. And you go, well, I don't know, where's God? And you ask all those questions. Where's God now? What's light? And then the answer is all in this lesson. And then you go through it enough times and it starts to dawn on you, the questions become answered. That's all, I guess, the thing that I observe all the time is how these, the words in the Course are totally different from words anywhere else. And they empower, they open up places that otherwise, the prayers we used to say were, about, crucifixion and all these things, as a prayer. This is like more like you're gonna open my eyes, please, God show me. Or the other thing is let go. I let go of my concern about my physical situation or somebody else's. I let go, I ask, and then when I say those words, you can't get away from I let go. How do I let go? What am I letting go of? Those questions come up, and then the answers come through your reading it again and again and going, oh, well, maybe, and then eventually more and more answers come.
Sure. Because you're saying to the universe, I want to know what this is. And you will get the answers if you keep sending that out. That's you're literally changing your mind about which part of your mind you want to live in. When you're saying health, you're saying I want to know this. And I'm stuck in this. It appears, but I want to know this. You're sending, as the Course talks about, when you choose for the ego, we're literally sending out feelers trying to find something for you to be upset about, and it will bring them to your feet all bloody and whatever is the thing says. When you start sending this out, you're saying, I want to know what truth is. And it will start to bring it to you because you have asked. But don't be surprised that you will continue to get some of the stuff you already ordered on Amazon, because that's already in place.
I like that, ordered on Amazon.
It's very true.
Yeah, he delivered that way.
Yes, but how do I respond when it gets delivered? That's the deal. Yeah, because if I'm just coming.
Reaping and sowing.
Yep. Right. All right. We're going to take a break and come. We are going to continue on paragraph 4. So while you practice in this way, you leave behind everything that you now believe and all the thoughts that you have made up. And again, we made the thoughts. All the thoughts we believe are things that are an effect of the choice for separation. Properly speaking, this is the release from hell. Pretty much put it online there. Yet perceived through the ego's eyes, it is a loss of identity and a descent into hell. And that's a real serious problem that we have, because we think giving up who I think I am is going to be a loss. And because we're so identified with being the ego that it feels like I'm losing. So that's an internal struggle that's going on until we're really convinced that this isn't working for me. And as somebody mentioned, when we really come to that realization, it's not working. This is hurting me. I'm not at peace. I want to be at peace. And Jesus keeps reminding us over and over and over and over and over, the way you get to peace is to keep choosing to allow me to run the show instead of you. And that will take you to an experience of peace. And as we do that occasionally, then we see the reflection that's different than when I'm doing it, and that catapults us to want to do it more and more frequently. But we're still extremely addicted to being in control.
Would you say, though, it's a function of living in comparative bodies, or how we're always looking, so that we're looking at comparative bodies, we're comparing how this worked with that person. So we're always looking from the body's viewpoint rather than any other viewpoint, because we don't know how to find that other viewpoint.
Yeah, and I think, again, once the choice of separation was made, everything from then was to beget more separation and duality. You against me, this team against that team, you're tall, you're short, whatever it may be. There's some form of separation that's going on all the time. And we just lived from that place, totally unbeknownst and understood that we're the ones that set this up in the first place. So I think we have to be extremely gentle on ourselves. If you find yourself, going in that direction, and you realize it, stop, but don't beat yourself over the head. Because we were literally programmed ourselves to live from here and never, ever, ever forget that this is what the problem is here. And now we're starting to catch it a little bit. And the ego, as the Course would say, is going to be vicious, if not malicious, and try to get you back down here, because that's what we ordered initially. So it is a process, but as you do it more and more, your ability to understand, no, don't want to go that direction. That's not working for me anymore. That will not bring me peace if I continue to go down the road that says lack of peace, period. All right. And I'm going to read that last two lines again. Properly speaking, this is the release from hell. Yet perceived through the ego's eyes, it is a loss of identity and a descent into hell. So again, that's a little bit of a challenge in our minds right now. But as we straighten that out and become very unquestionably aware, I'm not giving up anything by choosing to come with empty hands. I am going to gain instead of lose. And when you're doing it from the ego point of view, you're continuing time. When you step out of time, when you come back, you've literally collapsed some of the time that you would have had to live in the separated state. So it's a very valuable aspect of collapsing the time and remembering who you are. And somebody mentioned something earlier in the conversation, and the Course would state, when you ask for help to see differently or empty that space, healing is going on so many levels, you have no clue of how much healing is taking place. Your conscious awareness is not in play. Something is in play that is way differently than what it is when you're in charge. All right, so paragraph 6. If you can stand aside from the ego by ever so little, you will have no difficulty in recognizing that its opposition and its fears are meaningless. You might find it helpful to remind yourself from time to time that to reach light is to escape from darkness, whatever you may believe to the contrary. God is the light in which you see. You are attempting to reach him. So if you stand aside from the ego by ever so little, and I've always loved the statement in the Course of the little willingness. He's not asking you to throw away everything. He's asking you that little willingness when you realize you're so miserable you can't stand it another moment. And that's all that's required for a change. You will have no difficulty in recognizing that its opposition and its fears are meaningless. And eventually the fears will just fall away because you're not giving them the attention any longer. You might find it helpful to remind yourself from time to time that to reach light is to escape from darkness, whatever you may believe to the contrary. So, where's this one? Yes. I think if there's a problem in the world, I need to go to the problem and fix it. All that does is put me in the darkness. Even if it's a legitimate, like picking on Andrea here, when you were making fun of your cousins because they weren't doing what you were doing, you were literally becoming more of the darkness. Instead of focus on, what do I want? That's going to heal beyond anything else.
I guess that was what finally led me there was, well, where do they get so happy?
They're laughing.
What are they getting that I'm not having? I mean, I'm not getting, but just, how come if I'm taught this and it's supposed to be the be-all and end-all of my life, why am I not happy about it? And why don't I understand
There you
anything
go.
that they're joking about? It doesn't seem funny at all to me.
All right, God is the light in which you see. You are attempting to reach him. And literally every time you drop the story and you say, Holy Spirit, I want to know who I am, you are opening the door for him to show you the answer that has nothing to do with anything that's being done over here. So you can't fix it. You have to open the door to allow it to come forth, which means I have to drop the story and come with empty hands. All right, we are now going to move on to text 87, paragraph 9, line 2. We're just going to read one little paragraph here, and then we'll move to another section.
Paragraph 9, you said?
Paragraph 9, line 2. All right, so every loveless thought must be undone. A word the ego cannot even understand. And I'm just going to stop there because, wow, how about a profound statement? Every loveless thought must be undone. And are we, we keep saying, I want to know who I am as love. Yeah, let's do oneness. But are you really willing to have every single loveless thought that you harbor, hold, think to be undone? Are you willing to pay that price, which really isn't a price because it brings you to peace, but because we're so addicted to the ego way of being, we hold and we cling on to those things. In the midst of an argument, are you willing to just stop and go, wait, not going there? Or does this happen instead? And this is, again, not a judgment, not an attack. It's simply the realization that, gosh, I guess I'm not really ready to let it all go yet.
Rose used to say, like, it's a dream, like sleeping at night, and how you wake up and you sort of are
Yeah.
like, wow, that was a dream, it seems so real. And sometimes you can say, like in your dream, you're like, oh, I know this is a dream, so I think I'm going to want to do this or dream this or whatever.
Right.
But it's just this, it's so weird.
I know. And as we know, when you wake up in the morning from a dream, it all disappears. Well, when we wake up from the solidness of this daytime dream and realize it's nothing, why would I attack a nothing?
And take it so seriously.
We take it very seriously, yes. Yeah. All right.
But I think also, initially, you don't even know what you're doing at
Oh,
all.
no,
So
no.
You don't know what the...
We don't know what we're up to.
I think that's probably the hardest place to be. We just don't, nothing seems to come correctly to us or to give us what we want. So
Yep.
It's hard to interrupt our dream for the truth.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and we're so addicted, as we read earlier, to look on the outside, hoping that something on the outside's going to fill me up so I'm full and I'm complete. And nothing that replaces God can ever make us complete. And when we finally exhaust that list, and however long that takes for any given person, when we finally exhaust the fact that I got a little something nice here, and don't get me wrong, I like it, but I'm not complete inside. Something's missing. Until that really occurs, and even after that occurs intellectually, we'll still be looking for stuff in the world. I mean, because we're so used to looking there for it. But then the more that we can bring it back into, wait, this doesn't have anything to do with all this stuff on the trappings of the outside. I want to know who I am from the inside. Then we're playing a whole nother game. One that will take us different.
Like you've gotten everything you want and you're still not happy. Is a wake up to, I must have been doing something wrong. How can this be? why did God let this happen? That's kind of
Oh,
how
yeah.
the theme goes on, is I did everything I was supposed to do. And it's all about you thinking about your way, response in the world to other bodies and how they're
Yep.
responding to you, and how you're never letting them really get ahead of you. You don't want to be careful because you don't want them to, to really step on you. And so then there you are with that same thought system. There's no, way out of that thought system unless you give it up, don't want to know. What else is there? But, that song, is that all there is?
Yep.
That's just,
Oh, I sang that song for many years.
Well,
What's
yeah,
it all about,
it's
Alfie?
like how that seems like the only other alternative until you
Yep.
you seem to have everything you want, and then you're still not happy because there's something missing. I guess then that's what becomes apparent when you ask, help me
Right.
to see what's missing.
Yep.
What's going on here?
All right, so I'm going to read that line again because it's a biggie. Every loveless thought must be undone. A word the ego cannot even understand. And if you think about it, in order to be over here, you have to give up all loveless thoughts, because loveless thoughts don't live over here. And if I want oneness, I have to be willing to, let those be undone. And once again, we're not asked to be the ones that undo it. We're being asked to recognize this was a choice of separation, and this is what it has brought and will always bring. Until I open the door to help, I need another way, because this isn't working. To the ego, to be undone means to be destroyed. Well, we really believe that if I ask to, have my mind healed, that Marianne's out the door. But it's really the identification with thinking that Marianne is who I am. In other words, if I'm over here, I'm identifying with the character Marianne. If I'm up here observing Marianne, I'm no longer the Marianne. I can't be the observer and the observed at the same time. So I'm really losing my identification with this character called Marianne. The ego will not be destroyed because it is part of your thought, but because it is uncreative and therefore unsharing, it will be reinterpreted to release you from fear. And I like those words, because it's not like you're kicking the ego out of the way. It's you're reinterpreting what the storyline the ego is providing you, and you're going to release yourself from fear. And if we're really honest, we're in fear like almost all the time, right? And we don't usually identify all that unsettled stuff as fear, and yet it's some form of fear because I don't know who I am. And again, when I drop the story of all the stuff which fear is enmeshed in, and I come with empty hands, I'm saying I want to know myself as fearless. The part of your mind that you have given to the ego will merely return to the kingdom where your whole mind belongs. And understand, in the separated state, your mind is not whole. It's this little pea brain that's deciding that it knows more than everybody else in the dream. And it doesn't know any more than any of the rest of the people in the dream. And nobody within the dream, until they've chosen to heal their mind, is ever going to find the answers, because the answers aren't found there. In lack or limitation, you can't have wholeness. You can delay the completion of the kingdom, but you cannot introduce the concept of fear into it. In other words, that means fear doesn't live here, it only lives here. You can't bring lack of fear here. You must step away from the fear and walk here, and then you'll have the experience of a fearless experience. Excuse me. All right, we're going to go to text 89, paragraph 4.
What section is that? What's it called?
Does anybody share with her what this is?
For God. Yeah, the decision for God.
Thank you.
Page 89. Oh, you have a different book. Page 89 is on.
Paragraph 4, 89. But the time is now. You have not been asked to work out the plan of salvation yourself because, as I told you before, The remedy could not be of your making. God himself gave you the perfect correction, with a capital C, for everything you made that is not in accord with his will, with his holy will. Sorry about that. I am making his plan perfectly explicit to you, and will also tell you of your part in it and how urgent it is to fulfill it. God weeps at the sacrifice of his children who believe they are lost to him. All right. So the time is now, because really that's the only time you can ever work on healing is now. And that now can be the next moment, because you're in the now then. but that's the moment where healing can happen. You have not been asked to work out the plan of salvation yourself, because I told you before, the remedy could not be of your making. Again, I cannot solve the problem while I'm sitting in the problem, because the answer is not there. I have to step away and then have him show me what the answer is. And again, be very aware of the word usage, could not be of your making, because he's trying to help us. Creation and making are two mutually exclusive thought systems, and nothing that God did not create is real. God himself gave you the perfect correction for everything you made that is not in accord with his holy will. So I'm either aligned with his will by saying I don't know, or I'm in my will, running the show. And obviously, me being in control, running the show, is not working out too well. I am making his plan perfectly explicit to you, and will tell you of your part in it and how urgent it is to fulfill it. So he's going to tell us explicitly how to do this if we will stop doing this and ask him to find the answer. Okay, so this next line can be understood a little bit unclearly, but I will read it and then explain it. God weeps at the sacrifice of his children who believe they are lost to him. This is a metaphoric statement, because God doesn't have tear ducts, he doesn't have eyes, he doesn't cry, he doesn't know what you're up to. All right? And when he got the word sacrifice, that would be an ego word because it's in quote. There's nothing about sacrifice in this process. When I really want to find out what the answer is, it's not from a place of sacrifice. If I'm still doing it because I'm going to, this is the way you're supposed to do it, so I guess I'll have to do this, then it's not really, you're not really doing it. This is when I want this more than anything else. And when it says, that God weeps, well, again, he doesn't weep for his children because he thinks they're lost. Well, we're lost, but it's not because of anything to do with God. He knows who we are as one. Paragraph 5. Whenever you are not wholly joyous, it is because you have reacted with a lack of love to one of God's creation, perceiving this as sin. You become defensive because you accept attack. The decision to react in this way is yours and can therefore be undone. It cannot be undone by repentance in the usual sense, because this implies guilt. If you allow yourself to feel guilty, you will reinforce the error rather than allow it to be undone for you. All right, so this first line, whenever you are not wholly joyous. Okay, anybody ever have that, experience of not feeling? Yeah, pretty much all the time, right? All right, so whenever you are not wholly joyous, it is because you have reacted with a lack of love to one of God's creations. So you might be sitting there going, well, right now, I don't think I'm having any judgment or attack, but just be very, get out the magnifying glass. There's probably somebody in there that you're still not too settled with.
I was telling Jim, I was at a party and these two old geezers got into a physical fight. They were on the floor and all that.
Oh my gosh.
A holiday party. It had been going so smoothly for like an hour and a half, and then these two got into it. And I didn't realize I had expectations that it would continue being nice and good food and peaceful.
Oh, no.
They disrupted that expectation pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had judgments about the two people who participated, particularly one of them. And so then I had to get my peace back, because I recognized I was not at peace. And I didn't like what they called the police. The police were there a good 45 minutes.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yes.
That's not very peaceful.
Well, it turned out one person was on probation or something.
Oh, gee.
So they wanted to make sure that he hadn't violated his whatever. He probably did. Nobody was saying.
Right.
But luckily, there was another dinner party at my friend David and Lori's house after that, and we had a meditation after that, and I felt okay. So it's taken me a long time to get back to some sort of calmness,
yeah,
from
yeah.
that, because I recognized that it reminded me, it wasn't so much them, it's what they reminded me of.
Sure.
Yeah,
It reminded me of some other experiences.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And also that, I can create those kinds of experiences. So far, I was over there at another table.
Right.
But at any time.
If the circumstances are right, you can be right there in the party.
I could be in
But-
that kind of a party
yeah,
if I
yeah.
watch,
Yeah.
if I don't keep to a book of some sort.
Yeah.
Like
So
this.
Absolutely.
Who was the perpetrator? I'm on this perpetrator kick where I think the perpetrator is just the negative thing that you are experiencing. Is that what it is?
Well, you
I
could
don't know about
you,
perpetrator.
you could think about the perpetrator is literally anything in your mind that's not love. And then it gets reflected into the world, or projected into the world, my mistake on the word, and then you see it as a problem out there that is taking your peace away.
So the perpetrator is really
Your belief.
your choice to look at it in any other way but love. But you can't immediately. You're looking at it a certain way, and you have to ask for help to look at it
Right.
through the eyes of love, or it sticks on you somehow. It becomes
Yes, it
something that
does.
you've
Well, I'm one with them, so.
Yes,
I
ma'am, you are.
recognize-
Yeah.
I recognize that
Right.
some part of me and some
Yep.
part of everybody who's in that room.
Yep, a part of
Knew it
your
was coming.
dream. Yep. And that can be challenging. I mean, you may not even have known the people on the floor rumbling. Yet, if you're being affected by it, it's part of your dream that needs to be healed.
Yes,
Yeah.
Wayne Dyer would say, if you see somebody, doing something really, really kind for somebody else, that affects everybody in the room. So it's got to be the other way, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I guess I'm trying to redefine, for myself.
Right. What
the
perpetrator?
perpetrator is.
Yeah.
It's the thing that comes in my mind that keeps me from the peace of God.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is exactly.
Right.
But it's how that influences my thoughts about
Yes.
positive or negatively, how it's looking not like I'm taking it in. Like we were talking the other week about watching someone else lose their peace and having that influence you somehow, and how it's not so much even what anybody's doing, it's just how it affects you, how you're taking it in. That becomes the perpetrator that's in you about it. And then you have to ask for help, to see it differently.
No, I don't look at them as perpetrators. These are just these actors in the theater
Well, no, I'm thinking more,
that are showing me something I need to see.
Right. Right.
To forgive, it's a forgiveness one.
Yeah, it's a forgiveness lesson.
Yep.
It's everything. I just have a little story to tell you about this
Sure.
paragraph about the time is now.
Right.
I must have read it that morning, this was years ago, because my kids were little and we were still going to church. And I was thinking of that Dr. Seuss book,
Mhm.
Marvin K. Mooney, do you remember that
I
one?
don't remember.
No, I don't know.
The time has come, the time is now. So I must have done some writing or something on it. So we got to church and there was a priest there that was visiting. And his whole homily was on Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
And he had written this. I still had, I was looking to see if I had it stuck in my book.
Oh, right.
At home. But it was so, like, what would you call it? Like a God thing. Like I wanted to stand up and go, oh my God. Yeah, I was just so taken that I went
Right.
to the sacristy after Mass. I said, could you give me a copy of
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Wow.
And I was telling him about I wasn't telling them about closing your.
Right. You didn't want to let them know all that, right?
One of those moments where you just will never forget that.
Yep.
This is something.
Well, and I think that's a good example of, as I open up to a higher way of seeing, I'm going to hear it in the Catholic Church or what, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's going to come back in a way where my ears are ready to hear. And, somebody else, you might tell that story, and they go, well, so what's the big deal about that? Because it doesn't,
Yeah.
it's where you are.
Right, that's exactly
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
felt.
yeah, very cool.
Can I ask about that
Sure.
last sentence there, God weeps at the sacrifice of his children.
Yes.
who believe their life. So we talking about atheists there? I mean, am I totally off? People who think there is no God, or they're lost to God, or?
Well, I think what this means, what this is referring to is an image of a God who's weeping because his children who believe they are lost to him. Well, we're not lost to him. So this is really more of a symbolic aspect of God. Because God doesn't have tears, he doesn't weep, he doesn't have arms, he doesn't have eyes, he doesn't know we're gone, correct. But this is kind of like a metaphorical way of thinking that, we're sacrificing who we are in our connection with God and our brother to be separated. And he's sad about that, but he's not really sad about it. Yeah. But it certainly could be perceived as that's what it meant. And, people will take a sentence like that out of context and say, well, yeah, God knows we're here because look, but there's many, many other places that specifically state that that's not the case. So, all right.
People say Jesus died for our sins.
Oh, yeah. And I'd like to know, since he did that, why we're still so messed up. I mean, really, 2,000 and some years later, and we're still just as messed up as we were before. I don't think it worked.
I always thought it was the unlucky son of God that ended up there. He just the poor sucker on the cross.
Yeah.
God thinks, I'm gonna join him up there, forget that.
Yeah, right. Wait a minute, I'll try to be good, but not on the cross.
To get that close, we're all
All right, everybody close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath and let it all go. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept with this into the minds that you've created and which you love. Amen. And remember to continually go back to that stillness. Let me say the actual words because they're just way too beautiful. Turn to the stately calm within. That's it. Happy New Year. See you next time.